The scenario I tested was a member of the public making a complaint about a food premises that they'd eaten in within Westminster.
Yes, I was testing the request of a resident to get parking controls lifted outside their house so that they could have a delivery made.
The journey map that I was testing was a resident wanting to volunteer in Westminster, but I had to actually add a little bit more detail to that, so I wanted to volunteer to do some handiwork and DIY.
If we can actually get our website right and have a really simple e-form that gets the right information from a customer up front, it can then really avoid further contact that's unnecessary later on and make sure the inquiry is dealt with effectively.
Well, two things struck me. One is that the language and the approach on our website is not very customer focused. We're very concerned about explaining the functions of the council and the legal framework for parking controls. So using the word parking controls lifted got me absolutely nowhere. I had to think, what would the council call it? The other thing that struck both me and the owner of this particular customer journey was, how do we actually get it changed? This is the council's website, it's been designed in a certain way, it has a certain layout. We couldn't identify what action we could take to get that changed.
I went to Charing Cross Library to sort of just to test a little bit further away from the normal approach you'd think somebody would take. Spoke to the librarian on the desk, very helpful, jumped straight onto our website and again brought up the issue of volunteering in the libraries. After explaining to him I didn't actually want to volunteer in the library, which made me feel a little bit awkward because I was in a library at the time, and he seemed to be, well, why don't you want to volunteer for me? But he then went onto the website, found out the details of the parade street, but rather than telling me the details, he was very keen to log me onto the computer. So he found out whether I was a member of the library. I wasn't, so he logged me on as a guest and took me upstairs, very helpful. There were 3 or 4 empty computers, but the computer he'd logged me onto actually had somebody working at it, and they had 20 seconds to shut down their work and clear the desk and leave the library so that I could find out about volunteer centres. Again, slightly awkward situation there when the other desks were empty. But I went onto the internet, I found out the information I wanted to find out and logged off. As I logged off, the log on screen for the next customer says, WW Westminster / volunteer, do you want to volunteer in Westminster? So that was quite an interesting experience.
The journey for the customer, I think my impression was the information is there, but we're not thinking customer. We're not thinking language and approach of customer.
You go to Google, you get the answer straight away. You go to 118 118, you get the answer straight away. But Westminster couldn't quite give that level of